Hi, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. It's Miss Brezick here. For those of you who don't know me, I am a teacher at Heritage Middle School. And today I wanted to do a little video to talk about two things. Number one, word choice. And, we've been using the T-Swift analysis tool for poetry, and word choice is one of the lenses that we look through. I want to give you more information about that. And then the second thing is I wanted to talk specifically about analysis a little bit more. The teachers and I realized we didn't do a really good job explaining that to you from the beginning. So if you are here just for the analysis part, you're going to want to skip a little closer to the end because I'm going to start with word choice. So let me share my screen and let's get started. Okay, so we are going to start by talking about word choice. So what I wanted to teach you today is I want to teach you what word choice is, why it matters, and how to make your poems engaging by thinking carefully about the words you choose. So what is word choice? Word choice means being very thoughtful about the words you choose to put in your poetry or any other writing you're doing. When you are thinking about word choice, you are wanting to have very precise or specific nouns. You want to have very descriptive adjectives, and you want to have energetic verbs. Now, why does this even matter? Well, the more specific that our words are, the better our writing will be. So when we think about the words we choose, we can help our readers see even more clearly exactly what we see as we're doing our writing. So in order to demonstrate word choice to you, I'm going to share a poem with you. This is by a familiar author. If you remember the poem, The Red Wheelbarrow, this is the same author, William Carlos Williams, and he wrote this poem that I'm going to read to you now. It's called This Is Just to Say. This is just to say, I have eaten, that should be plums. I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox, and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet, and so cold. So this is just a very simple poem with very easy language, but he was very thoughtful about his word choice because here is a parody or another person's interpretation of his poem. Let me read you this one. This is just to say, I have digested the droops that were in the refrigerator, and which you were most likely reserving for the first meal of the day. Exempt me. They were toothsome, so sugary, and so frosty. So it has the same meaning. The poem means the exact same thing, but the way that the second writer did this isn't as good as the first one. William Carlos Williams, he picks very ordinary words, but he chose them very carefully. And this person who wrote the second one, I think made it a little more complex. So let's now go through a couple of the changes that this author made. So if you change words, then you change meaning. You give just different, like I said, these mean the same thing. They have the same ideas, but there's just a little difference in the tone or the mood. There's maybe just a slight shade that makes it just a little bit different. So for example, the first word, William Carlos Williams chose eaten, and then the second writer chose digested. I have eaten, oops, here's the mistake again. I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox. I have digested the droops that were in the refrigerator. So what's the big deal? Why does it really matter? Well, when you eat something, it's kind of pleasurable. You might eat a piece of birthday cake, or you might have a really great piece of fresh fruit for breakfast and you eat it. Digested seems more like scientific. It seems like more of a medical term. So the word choice with digested is not as good because it sounds too scientific or medical or bodily function. If you are trying to achieve some bit of medical tone in your poem, then digestive might be great. But I don't think it sounds as good for what William Carlos Williams is trying to do. Eaten sounds better. Now, the next one is plums, and then the second author said droops. I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox. I have digested the droops that were in the refrigerator. Okay, I don't even know what a droop is. So first thing I want to do is look that up. And we see it's a fleshy fruit with the skin of a central stone, with the thin skin and a central stone containing the seed, like a plum, cherry, almond, or olive. Okay, so a drupe is definitely a plum, but a drupe could also be an olive. It could also be an almond. It could also be a cherry. So you can see that in his poem, if it says, I have digested the drupes, that's not specific enough. Plum is a much more specific word that gives a better picture in someone's head. So the reason why droops is not as good is just because, well, one, maybe not many people know it. Now, that's not to say that they can't look it up. If it's a really great word, you still want to use it even if you know a word that other people know. But two, it's not specific. If you say droop, someone might think, oh, you had a really great olive for breakfast. So you can already start to see the difference when you play with words, and you want to be really careful and picky when you choose your words for your poetry. Okay, the next one, breakfast and first meal of the day. Let's see. And which you were probably saving for breakfast, and which you were most likely reserving for the first meal of the day. This one, I don't know, it's maybe not as bad, like it's not less of a weaker, it's not as weak as digested and droops, but I think it's just too wordy. Why do you want to say 5 words when you could say one that means the same thing? Breakfast also gives the feeling of like, I don't know, you think of a morning breakfast and then there's coffee there and there's maybe you're sitting down with some family members, or there's like donuts. Breakfast, you have this vision, and when you say the first meal of the day, that kind of gives this other tone, like maybe you're taking it, in your car as you drive to school or work or something. So it's too wordy. It doesn't set the mood as well as breakfast does. Oops. Okay, the next one, delicious and toothsome. Okay, already I know what delicious is. Obviously, things that are delicious, like they're so, so tasty. Let's look up and see the definition of toothsome. And we see it means temptingly tasty. Okay, now let's go and look at the poem. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. Exempt me, they were toothsome, so sugary and so frosty. Okay, we know toothsome because of our definition. It means temptingly tasty. So delicious, tasty, toothsome, they all mean the same. But when I see sugary here after, I don't know why with toothsome, I'm like thinking of cavities. Is that the energy that you want to give in your poem, right? This is why you have to be very specific. This is just me, my interpretation. I don't know why, but I saw toothsome and sugary, and I thought cavities. And then maybe that has a negative connotation, but I want this to be positive. So I would say toothsome is weaker because it's not as common. Which, I already said you can use uncommon words if they fit right, but also led me to think cavity when paired with sugary. Is that what it was, sugary? Yes. Okay, and then let's look at the last one, cold and frosty. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. Exempt me, they were toothsome, so sugary and so frosty. The first thing I think of frosty is like Wendy's and like ice cream. And then I think frost, like being someone who lives in Chicago, and when, it's winter time and there's frost outside on my car, or do you ever take out something from the freezer that's been in there a long time and it's got that white frost on it? Frosty in this case doesn't necessarily make me want to eat the plum. The word cold was a better choice because it's like a nice, cold, sweet plum for breakfast. Yes. A frosty, sugary, toothsome first meal of the day? No. So I would say frosty. The word choice is weaker because it makes an image of frost on the plum, which doesn't seem delicious or tasty. So I guess what we want to teach you today is that with word choice, when you pick very specific nouns, adjectives, and verbs, you can make pictures very clear for your reader, and you can make the mood and the tone have a certain energy that you want to give. Maybe you want it to feel medical. Remember the word digested, but then you would want to include more. Or maybe you want it to sound formal, like the first meal of the day. Or maybe you want it to sound like a lovely breakfast with a delicious piece of fruit. The words that you choose in the poems you write will make the reader feel those moods or tones based on what you choose. Now, you might be wondering, okay, this is great, Brezik, but what do I do? How do I find the most specific words? So what I wanted to show you is another word in here that I didn't go over is icebox. I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox. You know, I was wondering, why did he say icebox and not refrigerator? So let's go over to the tool that I want to teach you is just thesaurus.com, and I'm going to put icebox. And we're going to look here for synonyms or other words that mean the same. Now, you see up here, there's a bunch of tabs and they go across this top. So do you mean like wintry, like chilly, like shivery, cold, frigid, big house, as in refrigerator? So you can see here, icebox. We could use the word refrigerator, cooler, cold storage box, and ice chest. They all have different tiny little shades of meaning that you have to pick the one that most fits with what you would want to use. So I'm almost thinking, you know, I'm not sure what year this poem was published, but if it was published in the past at some point, I don't know if you know, but refrigerators used to be referred to as ice boxes. So that could be the case. I kind of like icebox better. It seems like simpler times. It seems like easier. Like just sit down for a breakfast. You don't have to worry about rushing off or going somewhere. Whereas refrigerator just seems like regular everyday item that we're used to. Icebox has 2 syllables. Refrigerator has 5. So when you write poetry, another thing as you're choosing words is to read it out loud and hear how it sounds as well. So the tool that I encourage you to use, I'm just going to give you just this one, is thesaurus.com. You can search up all kinds of words and get tons of ideas. I use Google a lot, you know, to look up word meanings, thesaurus.com, dictionary.com. You could also do Google searches, like if you're trying to write for alliteration. I know I'm getting a little off topic, but you can do Google searches for like words that start with the letter R and have like lists come up. Those are all available online. And poetry doesn't just happen, or writing doesn't just happen perfectly out of thin air and out of your mind only. You know, writers have to use tools like Google and like a thesaurus in order to make it great. So far I hope that you have a better understanding of what word choice is. It's so important because it'll give a certain feeling to the poetry you write, and how you can use a thesaurus in order to make your poem stand out more. Now, before I go, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about analysis. You know, this poetry analysis tool with T-Swift that we've been using, we haven't really talked specifically about analysis, and I just wanted to review a couple things. Analysis is when you look very detailed at certain elements of a poem, or you could do analysis on data. You could do analysis on, I'm not really thinking of other things off the top of my head, but it means to look very carefully at something. You look at the structure of something and you kind of figure out and interpret why you think something is so. And then here's the chart that we've been working on, and we've kind of revised it. You know, this is something new that the 7th grade teachers worked on this year, but we made this column for word gaps. The first time you read the poem, you want to write in all of the words you don't know and put their meanings. And then your teachers mentioned that this notice and analysis are a little confusing. For the notice column, all you're writing there is what you see right in the poem. Okay, so for instance, in this poem, I noticed the word icebox. It was right there. I didn't figure anything out of my own ideas. It was something that was right there. Something you could notice about structure. It had 3 stanzas. It had 14 lines. Those are things you notice by looking at the poem, what's right there. And then the analysis, we added some questions, or some sentence frames. So to do analysis, you can say things like, from this, the reader can infer or figure out that this can be interpreted to mean or suggest, or the author suggests, conveys, oh, this is wrong, I think. Intimates? I don't know what that is. Implies, illustrates, and this may suggest or imply that. So I want to just show you how I do this. So if I notice the word icebox, I might say, this suggests that the poem was written, you know, 20 or more years ago. Or this suggests that times, or that the time when the poem was written was simpler. Now, William Carlos Williams didn't tell us any of that. That's what makes this analysis. Anything that you figure out on your own from, you know, your own background knowledge or from doing Google searches, that's analysis. Analysis is what you figure out. It doesn't say it right there in the poem. You read the poem, you noticed a word like icebox, and then you figured something out. That is the difference with analysis. So in the notice column, only list what you see right in the poem, and then in analysis, use these sentence frames in order to help you. So I hope this was really helpful for you. I hope you have a better understanding of word choice and analysis, and your teachers and I are looking forward to seeing the poetry that you will write, and specifically what amazing word choice you will be using. Hope everyone has a great day, morning, afternoon, night, whatever time it is you're watching this, and we really miss you. I know I can speak on behalf of all of the teachers at Heritage. We miss you so much, and we can't wait till we can all be together again. And until then, this is Ms. Brezick signing off. Have a good one, guys.